All right. Thanks, guys, for coming. Obviously, it's a little bit cozier than we probably expected. Yeah, we sort of upped the number of mentors after we booked this room, so hopefully you're all okay.
You'll get through this.
Yeah. All right, so we'll make this nice and quick. Pretty sure you guys know briefly what a good mentor is, so we'll make it nice and simple. Here we go.
So this is the first time we've ever kind of formalized this. You guys have probably been part of mentoring programs as part of your undergrad or the Chancellor's Course program of college. So we kind of really wanted to formalize it because there's always been a need, and obviously with all of you guys applying, there's obviously a huge amount of interest. So there's a few, I guess, angles and what things we want to get across in here. I mean, obviously there's just the usual things of student support, increasing engagement with UMMS and Melbourne Uni in general, and that's something we've been really pushing with the induction week with the first years this week, just trying to get them all to realize that, you know, the uni is always there to help, and so are we, and so are you guys. And they've also always respond, hey, come on, mate. They'll always respond, there's a chair right there. And they always respond really well to knowing someone in the year above. So it's always nice when you see a friendly face when you get into RMH or whatever clinical school you go to in MD2. So inter-year level engagement is something we're really keen to get amongst. And then all kind of the usual stuff there. Important sounding words.
I guess on like a bigger picture, the idea here is that as years go on, you know, your mentees will become mentors as well, hopefully, and you sort of create this network of mentors, which just creates a nice cohesiveness between the medical school, all the different year levels. So yeah. Do's and don'ts. So, you know, obviously this system exists within medical school, within the university. There's lots of services already available. So we feel like it should be pretty clear as to what you should and shouldn't be doing. So obviously things like tutoring, unless you're really keen on it, we don't expect you guys to become tutors. And you know, if your students do ask that of you, you can just refer them over to peer tutoring. Counselling and pastoral care, social worker, that kind of thing is not within the scope of your role. Basically, we'll expect you guys to triage, off to other areas within the university and within the medical school itself. I mean, there's lots of services like the academic mentor and all that, which should be utilised because they're professional services and yeah, all there. What you should be doing is basically assisting MD1s however they feel is necessary. Obviously, it can be a hard time for MD1s, as you can imagine. We've all been there. All the transition, you know, thinking about how to get along with other people and how to set goals and how to organise your time. All of that can be pretty difficult. I mean, not necessarily for everyone, but there will be people out there who are quiet and unsure about what they're doing. It's also something that we always hear from MD1s that they want to know a little bit more about future years, you know, the whole light at the end of the tunnel, you know, what happens after MD1. And I think, yeah, so getting to know a little bit about what the hospital is going to be like, I think that gives students a bit of hope and a bit of something to look forward to. And yeah, as Kaz said, you know, going to different events and stuff, it'd be nice to see people that you know from other year levels. It makes it all a bit nicer and a bit more cohesive at various events. Yeah, so at the moment, I'll show you guys later, you can see there's an Excel sheet behind there. Each CSL, there are 30 CSL groups, and each group has 3 mentors, some of them have 4. Generally, there's a split between MD2 to MD4, so if you're a group of 3, it's likely you'll be an MD2, an MD3, and an MD4. Yeah, so as it says here, we get so many applicants, and we don't want to like shaft half of you, so we figured, let's have everyone. And yeah, so with that, one of the big things is, and you know, one of the questions you might be having is like, there's 12 people in the CSL group. You know, how do you organise logistically 12 people and 3 or 4 mentors? What we encourage is for you guys as a mentor team to sort of work out how you'd like to split. I mean, you're obviously going to get along with certain group people in the CSL group more than others, and if you can sort of work out a way in which, you know, splitting it up slightly, that'll make your life a lot easier, but also gives you scope to sort of pick and choose who you like, I guess.
So, so in terms of the meetups, we've been very aware not to make it too formalized and too structured, because that structure kills fun. Largely it's informal and unstructured. We'll be putting out a bit more information about kind of more activities that you can do when you kind of feel the spark dying a little bit. Once I like. Yeah, right. In terms of what you guys do, look, it's completely up to you. We didn't want to dictate. It really depends on you guys and your group, and what you guys, how you guys want to meet. It can be as formal as you want. We recommend ice cream, coffee, and dinner. And I was having one more like a blind date.
It's not prescriptive, so you can pick whatever you like.
They're very loose suggestions. In terms of timing, again, we didn't want to hamstring anyone too much by saying, do this or do that. We think roughly about 4 times a semester as like a bare minimum is really good. So that would be roughly like, well, once a month-ish, or once every 1.5 months. That would be like a bare minimum, just so they actually still remember who you are between you meeting them. Would be ideal. But as often as possible would be good. The way we kind of thought about it when you'd be meeting up with them is you'd meet up with them heaps in the first couple of weeks, because they're super anxious, super excited. And then once lectures start and they become grumpy, probably see them less, they'll want to study a bit more. But it's just about you being there as some sort of constant person that they can chat to, ask advice from.
Yeah.
So they can chat to and ask advice.
Like that guy does.
And in terms of what Will said, I think splitting is probably the best way, because 12 people is a lot, and it's hard to hold a conversation with 12 people, especially if you're in a group of 3 or 4.
That's one of the reasons why we did up the numbers. It just means that you can deal with 3 at a time rather than 5 or 6.
So I'm a big fan of splitting. I think it's a good idea. It's completely up to you and your mentor buddies how you want to do it, and the mentees obviously. I reckon at least the first couple of meetings would be good to have most of you guys there, so they kind of get to know you, and then you can pair off and kind of split up a little bit more. Next slide, please. Yeah, so this is the triaging stuff. So there will be issues that come up, and one of the really cool things about doing something like this is that it allows us to allow a way to escalate any issues that they might have, whether it's kind of really, really worrying stuff like mental health issues or struggling with stress or whatever, and all the way to like really common stuff like academic issues to do with curriculum or the course. And it's really up to you guys to be the triages and escalate as you see fit. So Will be a primary contact point as the coordinator of all this for everything. And we will give you as much ability to then help that person go wherever they want to do that academic, or to go to the DME, which is Steve and everyone else, or go to the academic mentor, or some of the other support structures in place, which I think Steve's going to talk about a bit later. And we're just kind of really trying to facilitate a really comprehensive support network for the MD1s. And then the dream is that we can then deploy this for the whole cohort, all 4 year levels. MD1s are easier, they're all together, they kind of shepherded everywhere. We can control where they go. But if this works really well, then it'd be really cool to see this expand and have mentors for you guys, and then have the little ladder system that we're talking about. So again, same stuff. Something that you want to show them to get support a bit on the website really quickly.
I don't want to
Open up Safari or something else. So this was put together by Aurora. Kelly. She was a community development officer last year, and we.
There's a space.
Just go to that normal thing. It's just kind of like an online where to go database for anything to do with support. So that's all the way from academic support. That's to do with clinical site specific in terms of hospital you're at, general resources essentially. There's also welfare stuff. So that's to do with central uni stuff. AMSU provides. And stuff the med school provides as well. That's anything from housing to ATSI to disability liaison. There's a list of GPs near various clinical sites, and it's always there. So really good resource. Aurora did a phenomenal job with her team last year, and we're really trying to push that as somewhere where both you guys and them can use to get info. And again, any other questions, if you don't know where to go, you can contact Will, myself, or any of the academic staff at the uni.
As mentioned in the application process, we're trying to organise training for you guys, just so that there's something recognised. At the moment, we're putting proposals through the MDHS Learning and Teaching Unit because they are working hard to get student societies, set up with mentor training just throughout. So hopefully we can make that happen. Keep your ears out for that one. So your first session's on Friday. The idea was to have MD4 students there, but obviously not all of you can be, and I thank some of the MD3s who have messaged me saying they can come. But if you are an MD3 who is available on Friday at 11:15, it'd be really great if you could come along, because I think we should be able to cover each group, but just in case there are sudden emergencies and stuff, it'd be really bad if one of the CSL groups just didn't have someone there for them. Yeah, so it's pretty basic. I mean, you're there to get to know them. Come up with some icebreakers if you like. It's your session, it's your group, it's whatever you want it to be, really. Yeah. Mentor manual. So so we've got this guide that's coming. We're going to send out to everyone. It's got similar kinds of information, some other ideas in terms of what you can do with your group.
The third one's very intense. Your success depends on it. That was my turn. I may have copied that from somewhere.
Great. Yeah, and so obviously, we're saying 4 times a semester at the very least. More often is better. In between that, we do expect that you guys will probably create a Facebook group, or perhaps be a part of their CSL group, because they'll all have Facebook groups for their CSL. So you can probably leech off that one if you want.
So guys, one last thing. This is all pretty straightforward. I don't think we need to labor on it. They will listen to everything you say. Just from the experience of last week, they will listen to everything you say, and you're a gold mine of knowledge and advice, and it's really cool that you get to play that part and help them out. Obviously, be really respectful and be professional. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, so that's pretty much it. I guess we'll.
Steve, would you like to
come up and have a Yeah. Questions? Yeah. Yeah.
Just after Steve's done.
It's literally put it up later for everyone to have a look.
Thank you very much. This is really exciting. It's so good to see so many of you here. I must say, this to me is what a medical school is all about. I've been involved in this business for a long time. Is the year 1992 special to anybody in this room? You've been in 1992, I tried to set up a mentor program when I was working at Monash, and it failed dismally. That are not going to happen here because you're doing it differently. Ours was top down. It was faculty saying, we will appoint a mentor to every group of students, and we'll appoint somebody from each year level to be the mentor for that group. The one thing I learned from that is that mentoring is a really organic thing. It grows or doesn't. It's a relationship, and as with all relationships, they grow by factors which we poorly understand. It's about the way you relate to people, though. And the one thing I learned from that experience was a lot of work when you're trying to engineer it, which actually didn't work. So the fact that you're here enthusiastic and committed as peers, I think is going to make the program much more successful than anything that's been tried before. And various other mentor schemes have been tried over the years. This is the first one that's really student-driven in the same way, and everything I've seen since I've been here, the only things that have really worked well have been the student-driven initiatives, because that's what you guys really embrace. And something like mentoring being so personal and individual, it's got to really come from you. Who was mentor? Any scholars here? Greek scholars? Mentor. Any idea what mentor was? He was a character in Ulysses, or the Odyssey, I think, Homeric character, who was, a little more recent. Han Solo. You guys are Han Solo. Or, actually, not that recent. We're still talking 30 odd years ago. You guys are going to be Han Solo to Luke Skywalker. Okay. You're not Han to the new one. What's the name? Ray. Right. Not Han to Ray. That's a vertical thing. That's a real sort of guru type thing to a junior. You guys are peer mentors. You're that slightly sort of racy older brother or sibling or cousin who's been there, done that, who can really say, look, I'm an expert in what you're most interested in, which is the medical course. The students we've met this week, not that interested in medicine, but interested in the medical course, which they see as their conduit to medicine. We scared the crap out of them yesterday at Auburn Hospital. We continue to make them. And what came out of that was that some people were quite disturbed, saying, is this really what it's like? We said, no, this is a cartoon. Okay, this is giving you a cartoon view of what medicine's all about. So when you go into the clinical schools, you'll see stuff and you'll say, wow, if Auburn Hospital was a cartoon, what I'm seeing here is still pretty bizarre. And it's wrong. And we had an academic with us from Leicester yesterday who looked at it all and said, it's interesting, we, in our first 2 weeks, put the students into the hospitals for 2 weeks to observe and watch what goes on. And now I realise when they come back saying, I saw a whole lot of stuff that had no point of reference to say that was wrong, what I saw. It was just okay enough that they thought, maybe this is the way it really works. So they needed either something as bizarre as Auburn Hospital to say, no, this is wrong, or a peer, a near peer, somebody who's just a little bit further along to say, when you talk to them about it and debrief, that's actually not the way the world should work. So that's one of the roles of the mentor. We did have an electronic exchange over January about the name. I'm a bit passionate about the word mentor. I think it's wildly overused, and the way Homer wrote it in the Odyssey is a very different sort of role to what we're always talking about with mentoring. In medical education, it often gets applied to people who have some consequence in your life in terms of you passing, failing, becoming a specialist or whatever. Now, a mentor is interesting. It needs to be really non-judgmental in that sort of way. The original Obi-Wan Kenobi was probably more of a mentor to Luke in that he was remote. Interestingly, I promised myself I wasn't going to do this, but interestingly, they actually took him out of the movie and kept on bringing him back in as an apparition in episode 4. Whereas Yoda, the little green creature, was more in Luke's face, pushing. Yoda's your clinical skills coach. Yoda's going to say, whatever it is. And say, you can do better in what you're doing. That's not your role as mentors in this sort of program. There's never texters that work in these PBL or CSL rooms. What's all that about? Somebody should let the department know about this one. But we teach a course, I don't know, some of you have been involved in actually the graduate certificate of clinical teaching, which talks about mentoring for your clinical teachers. Congratulations. That's how you never get anything from the medical school. Anyway, this guy called Dallos. Okay, we quote Dallos a lot because he's a bit of a guru about mentoring. Good word, guru. It's better than mentor, I reckon. You are an MD guru, but anyway, that's the way you proceed. But Dallas came up with this model where he said, okay, mentors sit somewhere here in the middle of a range of tasks which medical people are involved with, which range from maybe teaching and supervising through to counselling. And as the guys said, you're not being put up here as a counsellor and you're not being put up as a teacher. You're somewhere in the middle there of giving people a frame of reference about what's going on in the course. And when we talk to the students tomorrow in the Keeping Yourselves Well session, I'm going to talk to them about using near peers as reality checks. We talked about it at Auburn again yesterday, saying, look, if you see something you don't think is quite right, a good person to talk to is somebody who's a bit further along in the course than you, because they've got a clearer view, but they still can see your perspective. Now, somebody as ancient as me forgets about what it was like when you didn't know what was right and what was wrong. But somebody can still remember that's a really valuable resource. So you guys should be somewhere in the middle there, being informed enough to give a little bit of advice about how to do a better job academically, and also keying people into where they can get counselling and support. You can't really take on that role solely. So I think that's a really important thing. Another thing that was mentioned that I thought was really important as well was the issue of telling war stories. They will worship the very ground you walk on, because you have not only survived first year, by the way, the evaluation of first year's got better year by year, so thank you to the ND2s here. You've given us really good figures to reassure these guys who are scared clueless from what they've heard about FBS in the old days. It's actually much improved, so hopefully that they won't be quite as startled as maybe the older people in the room were. But anyway, it still needs work, I agree. But one of the things about telling war stories is you've got to ask yourself, why am I telling this story? When I told that thing about setting up a mentor scare back in 1992, did I just want to make you realise that I knew something about this? Or was it that I thought it might be useful information to put into context what you're doing? The same thing if you're with your group and you find yourself telling a story about something you've been through, is that to genuinely help them understand what they're going through, or is it that you want to make yourself feel better by saying, well, that was nothing, back in my day, we used to do this and do that? It's always interesting when you go, you've got to check yourself all the time. Why am I telling this group this story about myself? I heard it a bit yesterday at Auburn when we were telling them stories about hospitals were worse back in the day, used to work 80 hours and stuff like that. It's probably not helpful to tell those sorts of stories. So just one little tip on mentoring is that really it's about being person-centred. You know about patient-centredness? Well, the relationship, I don't want to medicalise it, but the relationship between mentor and mentee has some elements of that, as do all good relationships. It's all about between the people. And so really, if you're being mentee-centred, you're doing what the group or the individual needs, not what you're getting out of it. You'll get out of it an enormous amount. It's a fabulous feeling to be a mentor and have that sense that somebody's looking to you for a little bit of guidance. It is a non-judgmental role. That's what sets it aside a bit from the coach role. Yoda as coach. Those coaches at the Australian Open were really, really being measured on the performance of the athletes, tennis players that day. It's the same with football, with cricket, with netball, whatever. The coach is very much involved in pushing to get the peak performance. That shouldn't be your role with these students. Your role is non-judgmentally saying, if there's elements in what I am and what I've achieved that you're interested in, I can tell you a little bit about how I got to the point I got to, and to just demystify things. There was a really good paper a few years ago that looked at what frightens preclinical students most before they go into the clinical schools. And it was the fear of the unknown. It was described as a jungle. I again cemented my dad credentials yesterday with the first years by talking about Mean Girls. That's probably one of the best movies for understanding relationships, a bit of Tina Fey at work. And that scene in the cafeteria where everybody goes feral and starts acting like animals in the jungle as they start attacking each other, that's pretty much the way first years view the hospitals. And the fact that you're there and you can help to tell them who's who in the zoo, just to mix animal metaphors a little bit, is a really valuable role as well. So keep that in mind a little bit, that you are, I don't know, guru, I said before, guides, almost navigators. You're almost like, do they still have top deck tours? Anybody been on a top deck tour? Anybody willing to confess to being on a tiki tour or something like that? You know how they always choose the, what do they call the people that guide those? Guides. Okay. There are people that sort of know a little bit more about it than those who are currently on the tour and can demystify, explain, point out the interesting features and keep people safe, I guess, is the thing. Don't go that way at night time and get mugged. Go this way. These useful sort of things. Helpful life hacks that you also find useful. Can't think what else to say. They will be stressed during the year, and we said that, first year's not what it used to be. It is still a really packed, stressed year. You'll remember the sort of survivor mentality of what can I get from this person that's going to help me survive this unsurvivable year. I guess it's not getting drawn into that. There is the peer tutoring scheme, which is also really important and a really good UMMS initiative. And that is, I guess, more focused on helping people get onto their learning. You're more about the broader aspects of being a successful medical student. And I don't think you can underplay the impact that you will have on these junior students as they staff out through the course. They were the key things, I think. Oh, no, one last thing. You come first. One thing that's going on with the new students or participants who's taken into the graduate program on clinical teaching is they're saying, oh, it's always so hard because the students really want us to focus on them, but we've got our clinical work to think about as well. We often let them down because we're focused on our clinical patient work. That begins at medical school as well. I know you think we're awful as a medical school for cracking down on you, not skipping your clinical placements and clinical learning in order to do other things. The absolute essentials of life, like the AMS convention apparently, which must have changed a lot since my day, if it is academically essential, but that's all right, we'll talk about that another day. There are other activities, and this unfortunately goes with one of in that bucket as well. Mentoring your group is really important, however your learning takes precedence. And even the work you're doing on Friday, we had to agree that we could not say that you would skip really important stuff in your own learning and your own clinical placements and being part of that clinical team in order to take part in mentoring activities for your students. So you're going to need to find ways around a little bit. It is part, obviously, of professional development to try and fit all these things in. And although I think it's absolutely fabulous what you're doing, one of the great challenges is to fit it around your own clinical learning and not to compromise your own progress and your own commitment to patients in order to look after your juniors. So I don't want you to come down here because about it from a perspective. And your own family and friends as well. What commitments you want to do. So they were my little rants. Is there anything people wanted to ask? So, no? Okay, well, good on you. Again, I think it's a fabulous initiative. And to see so many people in this room, I think is a real testament to the, the collegial or the feeling that runs through the student body. It's really impressive. Something to see in graduate students, I think it's really interesting. Something that I didn't see in the old course in much the same sort of way. Anyway, good on you.
Thanks, Steve.
Thanks,
okay.
Steve.
See you.
Cool. Before we show you guys the groups, do you have any questions at all? Pretty straightforward, eh?
Yeah.
Sweet.
Alright, so I think the way we're going to do this, it's a bit difficult to sort of sort this out. We're probably just going to run through all the groups, and then you can just put your hand up just so that everyone else in the group knows who each other are, and then if you want to meet outside, then you can do that. Otherwise, we'll send out some more emails, and then it's up to you guys to get your group together and sort it out. Yep.
Just one thing, with the time on Friday, what is it, and what happens if we have something?
If you have something on, like clinical schools, you don't get rid of it. Yeah. That's why we mainly focus on MD4s because I think MD4s have the most flexibility, and that's what we agreed with Steve as well. But if you are free on Friday, please let me know because we would love to have you there. Any other questions? No? Okay. So yeah, okay.
Will we get emails of the other mentors in our group so we can communicate?
Yeah. I'm going to send out the whole list of the mentors along with the rooms that you'll be expected to be in on Friday. Yeah, that'll go out very soon. All right, let's do it.
What happened MD1 being told about this program?
Not a lot.
We did talk to them at the UMMS event, so they've gotten, they know what it's all about. It's all the bits that will be relevant to them from this presentation. Then, anything in particular that you think? Yeah.
Is there like a specific, will you send us a list of stuff you want us to talk about on Friday? Or like, are we supposed to bring food and stuff? Or can you claim it on text?
It's honestly up to you.
So it's just freestyle.
We can send a few pointers if you want, but it's really directed by you. Not really. It's really up to you to set the tone and get to know them.
Yeah. You're going to want certain things out of your group. They're going to want certain things out of you. It's whatever mutually works between everyone. Just for the Friday session, just to get to know.
Okay.
So
Thank you.
run whatever you like.
How are we communicating with them?
When the one person who goes on Friday will probably collect all contact details, probably set up the Facebook group and add the other mentors in while they're at it, and then you guys can set up your own time after. Yeah.
once you finish induction week and things settle down a bit, just meet up with them and introduce yourself. I did it with everyone else, and then you can go from there.
Yeah. Cool. Cool. Alright, so this. Don't know how big is that. Yep. Alright, can people read that, or should I just make it bigger? Oh, no. Cool. Alright, so group 1, Zara, David, Samantha, Nita, hands up.
Sarah just left.
Yeah, not everyone is here. People have given me reasons why they're not here, but you'll have all the details of the other mentors in your group. So, yep, cool. Group 2 is Sun, Jono, myself. Good. Group 3, Daniel, Julian, Laura. Hands up, guys. Just 2 of you for here. Yep. All good. Group 4, Jeremy, Eliza, and Lewis. Alright. Okay, group 5, Nicola, Jenny, Mark, and Sheeta. Cool. Cool. Group 6, Tracy, Callum, and Sam. Yep, cool. Group 7, Karen, Gabriella, Matt, and Alfredo. Cool. 8, Bhagya, Natasha, and Andrew. Cool, you're here. You'll know.
He's great.
Alright, group 9, Lynn, Tony, Andrea, and Tal. Tal's not here. All good. 10, Lakshini, Jesse, and Catherine. Sweet. 11, Matthew, Britt, and Georgia. Yeah. Just so you know, obviously some people are in rural clinical schools, so it might be a bit difficult to get you together, but they know what their expectations are, so they will be expected to come down on weekends, for example, or at night at some point. Group 12, Angela, Cassie, and Arthur. Group 13, Henri, Victoria, and Nick. Yeah, great. Group 14, Tim, Alex, and Sarah. And Tim?
Tim's RCS.
Okay. Oh, okay. All good. Group 15, Maylun, James, and Catherine. I don't think Maylun's here. Oh, bye. Correct. Group 16, Claire, Daniel, and Victor. Awesome. 17, Lauren, Owen, and Rachel. Yep, all good. 18, Carolyn, Ken, and Suresh. Yeah, the other 2 aren't here. That's right. Group 19, Lucy, David, Nathan, and Michelle. Good. 20, Shintao, Alvin, and Rufi. Group 21, Will, Julian, Emily.
Oh yeah, you're fine.
Hi, Julian.
You twice? I'll figure that out later.
We had 2 places.
What are names? 22, Nadav, Neri, and Mahesha. Ooh. 23, Trung, Cheng, Alexandra. Yep. 24, Jade, Shirley, Aiden. Yep. Okay. 25, Andy, Phoebe, and Cassie. Andy. 26, Carolina, Leah, and Elena. Sorry if I'm not pronouncing your names wrong. Yep, on it. 27 is Marley, Elise, Richard, and Viv. 28, Aaron, Jordan, Michael. Excellent. 29 is Nima, Gavin, and Along. Nima's not here. All good. And 30 is Doug, Marnie, and Sweet. That's it. If you want to meet up, sort it out. But I will send out email lists and everything for you guys to all get in contact. Thanks, guys.
Thanks for coming, guys.
Woo!